Okay, council, I will call the April 19th meeting to order for the West Richland City Council at 6 p.m. Before we call the roll, I'll ask Stephanie to read our virtual meeting ground rules and then call the roll.
All right, thank you. Please make sure the name shown at the bottom of your video view is the name you would like the mayor to use. You can change this by right-clicking on the 3 dots in the upper corner of your video view and clicking Rename. If you have an unstable internet connection, please also connect through the phone. That will allow you to continue to participate even if you lose internet connection. If you call in after you have joined on video, click the arrow between mute and video, and there is a button for switch to phone audio. Clicking this button provides a participant ID. Please call in with that ID, as then your phone is associated with your video. We will mute everyone until a designated comment period. And when the mayor asks for public comments, if you raise your virtual hand, he will call on you and you will be unmuted. To virtually raise your hand, click on Participants and then click on Raise Hand. If you are participating by phone only, press *9 to raise your hand. All right, roll call. Brent Gary.
Here.
Richard Bloom.
Here.
Fred Brink.
Here.
David Fetto.
I saw him. Where'd he go?
Did he get kicked out? All right, we'll come back. May Hayes.
Here.
Kate Moran.
Present.
John Smart.
Here.
Ken Stoker.
Here.
All right. Well, we saw that councilman was in the room. Is he coming back? We'll go ahead and work through the Pledge of Allegiance and then look for Councilman Fetto on the other side there. Mayor Pro Tem Brink, if you'll lead us in the pledge this evening, I appreciate it. We'll give a few minutes or seconds to get everybody muted and I'll let you go. Okay, looks like you're ready, sir. Go ahead.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. All righty. There's David's back with us. Perfect. Okay. With that, council, the agenda is before you this evening. May I have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
Mr. Mayor, I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second. Second.
A motion and a second from Councilman Bloom. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Motion carried. Thank you, council. This evening, we have a couple of introductions of new officers to our department. And with that, I'll turn it over to Chief Majetic to make those introductions. Chief?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of the council and the audience. I don't know if council recalls, but over the last year, the West Richland Police Department have had 9 people total retire or leave the law enforcement profession for a variety of reasons. And we've actually fared fairly well with drawing people to come to our agency, hopefully as replacements. And although I miss a lot of the people that had left after long careers, it also gives us a lot of opportunity to really bring aboard some quality people to really change for the better our agency and the way we do policing. And tonight I have the pleasure of introducing 2 such individuals. The first one is Jared Halk. Jared Halk is 29 years old and comes to us from the Walla Walla Sheriff's Office. Officer Halk has been a commissioned officer in the state of Washington for 2 years and has a 2-year degree in criminal justice from Columbia Basin College. Jared and his new wife, Brittany, live in Pasco and look forward to his new career with the city of West Richland. Secondarily, I'd like to introduce Jason Johnson. Jason Johnson is 47 years old and comes to us from Ascension Parish Sheriff's Office in Louisiana. Officer Johnson has been in law enforcement for 11 years and rose to the rank of sergeant before joining us here in Washington. He and his wife of 15 years, Molly, have relocated to the Tri-Cities, and Jason is scheduled to attend the Washington State Equivalency Academy in May. Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen, council, I hope you'll help me welcome both officers, Jared Halk and Jason Johnson. And they're both present tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, thank you, Chief. Much appreciated. We'll go ahead and start with Officer Halk. If you'd like to go ahead and make another introduction of yourself, tell us a little bit about you, your family, and council. Mr. Officer Halk.
Oh yeah, so as Chief introduced me, I'm Jared. Came over here from Walla Walla. Before that, I spent a year in the City of Pullman Police Department. And then before that, I worked in Idaho for a very, very large but not populated county just south of McCall, Idaho. I grew up in Longview, Kelso, Washington. Moved over to Tri-Cities in 2003 with my dad's job. I've been here ever since, graduated from Kamiakin High School in 2012. And like Chief said, I got my 2-year degree from Columbia Basin College. Then I moved down to Phoenix and I lived down there and attended Arizona State. Didn't obtain a bachelor's, but I should have enough credits if I didn't change majors in the process. We just moved back when I worked for Walla Walla County. We just bought a house in Pasco here. We love it. It's good to be back, part of the community with family and friends. What we like to do, we like to go out. We like to travel a lot mostly. We usually take about 2 to 3 big vacations per year, anywhere from Texas to Arizona or just, seaside, anything like that. We love working out. If you can't reach us, we're usually both in the gym or hiking, doing something. But yeah, I'm super excited to be here. It was extremely hard for me to leave Walla Walla County, but I'm especially excited to be here and I feel very welcome so far. And I thank you for that.
Thank you, Officer Halk, and we're excited to have you. And Selena, our wellness program, we got a new one on the line there, so you could probably hook him up with some wellness projects for us. So Officer Halk, you see Selena, she'll keep you busy in that gym for sure. And you guys have a nice gym to work with there at the new department. So we got the chief and our citizens to thank us for those amenities for sure. With that, we'll go ahead and move on to Officer Johnson. Welcome, sir.
Hey, good evening. My name is Jason Johnson. Originally from Washington State, lived here for 18 years, grew up on the west side, the Kirkland, Bellevue, Redmond area. Graduated from Lake Washington High School in 1993. In 2007, I relocated to the state of Louisiana, where I became a police officer and worked in that capacity, a couple of capacities as both a road patrol deputy and corrections officer. I was promoted twice while I was at that agency. After my time there, wanting to come back home and be around friends and family, through a friend of mine who relocated to the Tri-Cities area about 1.5 years ago, introduced me to the West Richland Police Department, and I was able to submit an application, and here I am. I'm happy to be here. I'm excited to be here. I'm looking forward to working with everybody. It's a great bunch of people, and I'm ready to continue my career for however long God sees fit.
Thank you, Officer Johnson. Welcome back home. And we had a meeting with Congressman Newhouse yesterday, and I got a chuckle when Officer Johnson introduced himself and where he was from. The Congressman said, "You don't have an accent." Kind of got a chuckle out of that one. So hopefully you picked up a little on how you get the catfishing done. So we might look you up on that one. Go see if we can do some wrangling, some catfish. So Councilman Bloom, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to say I don't have an accent either.
Oh, yes, you do. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, ask him to say New Orleans, and he'll say New Orleans. And just if you're gonna bring crawfish back up, let me know. I'll come and help you eat them.
Awesome. We'll do.
Welcome, Officer Johnson. Glad to have
Thank
you.
you.
So looking forward to you guys in the future of West Richland.
Yes, sir.
So with that, council, we're going to go ahead and move on to the consent agenda. Consent agenda is before you, which includes the payment of the bills. Approve the minutes of the regular meeting on April 5th, 2022. Resolution 2322 authorizing the mayor to sign a security and improvement agreement. A motion to approve the final plat of Height of Red Mountain Phase 4. Motion to authorize the mayor to sign the One Washington Memorandum of Understanding between Washington municipalities. Is there anyone from the audience who'd like to speak to our consent agenda this evening? If so, just raise your virtual hand or *9 if you're by phone. I do not see anyone. Stephanie, do you?
I do not see anyone, no.
Seeing no one, council may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you, council. This is our first opportunity for citizens' public comment for items that are not on the agenda this evening. If you would like to provide comment, please raise your virtual hand and the clerk will unmute you, and I'll ask you to name the city of residence for the record. I do not see anyone this evening. Stephanie, do you?
I do not. And just as a reminder, the raise hand button is at the bottom in the middle or over on your participants menu.
Or *9 if you're by phone.
Correct. Thank you.
Still no takers. Okay, we'll go ahead and move on to ordinances, resolutions, motions, and public hearings. 8A and B are a public hearing and an ordinance for vacation of a portion of Desert View Road right-of-way. I'll ask Public Works Director Roscoe Slade to present his staff report this evening.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, what you have before you is a petition to vacate a portion of Desert View Drive, formerly Bernice Road, right away. The petition was received on January 25th, 2022. It was reviewed by city staff and determined to be complete on February 24th, 2022. Council passed Resolution 1522, which sets tonight as the date for council to hold a public hearing on the requested easement vacation and determine whether to, well, we'll get into the what your options are. You can see in the exhibit in your staff report, the road right-of-way that's proposed to be vacated. If you look at that, actually Desert View turns north up to Deer Street in a section that isn't under road right-of-way, but we do have some utilities and stuff there. Again, this vacation was initiated by the resolution method, meaning that applicants requested it. Per our municipal code, notices were mailed to abutting property owners. Posted, we provided notice to the franchise utilities. The road right-of-way was posted, and also the notice was posted in the 3 public areas that are required. We also sent out notice to adjacent property owners that were within 600 feet, because the abutting property owner, the petition would have been the only one to receive the notice. So we took an extra step just to send it out there, especially since we just went through a process with the frontage vacation. So we already had that list. I did receive, prior to drafting the report, I did receive a notice from Benton Rural Electric that they have overhead power lines within this road right-of-way, and requested that the city retain a utility easement over those lines. The city also has water and sewer mains that go through that area. And so as part of this vacation, we're recommending that a utility easement be retained over the whole portion of the road right to be vacated. Between those 3 utilities, there was enough there that there wasn't much left that didn't need to be any utility easement. Staff has reviewed the conditions of West Richland Municipal Code 1240.050 to ensure these conditions have been met that allows council to vacate the road right away without requiring compensation. So if you look into that, it's asking whether did the city have to buy this road right away, or how long have we had it? And this was dedicated with a plat of Hemminger's Acres at no cost to the city. So we're able to meet that condition that we don't need to require compensation. So following the public hearing, council can consider the request in accordance with state and local law. To approve the vacation, council must find the street, alleyway, road right of way, or access easement is not currently necessary for travel or other street purposes. And like I said, in this area, the road doesn't even exist there. It actually turns north. It's not likely to be in the future. No property will be denied all access as a result of the vacation. Such vacation will not unduly jeopardize the health, safety, and welfare or public good. And so when we looked at that, staff has deemed it relevant and that it meets all those conditions. Council may grant the petition with or without conditions, or council can deny this petition. You're under no obligation to approve or deny. So you've got a lot of flexibility with this. Staff's recommendation is quite lengthy and I'll kind of go into it. But we're basically recommending approval of the road right-of-way vacation with two conditions. The first being a utility easement be retained over the portion of road right-of-way be vacated. And secondly, that road right-of-way be dedicated to the city where Desert View is currently turns north to Deer Street. And those conditions have been provided to the applicant and they are amenable to those conditions. So with that, I'll leave it at that and move on to the public hearing portion.
Okay, thank you, Roscoe. Appreciate it. With that, we'll open the public hearing at 6:17. If you'd like to provide comment, please raise your virtual hand or *9. And clerk will unmute you so you can state your name and resident for the record. Stephanie, I do not see anyone. Do you?
I do not.
Okay, with that, I'll close the public hearing at 6:18. And then ordinance 0622 vacating a portion of the Desert View Drive Road rights of way. Do I have a motion, please?
No one's going to want to read it, Mayor.
I'll read it. I move to adopt ordinance 06-22, vacating a portion of Desert View Drive, formerly Bernice Road, right of way, established by the plat of Hemminger's Acres, recorded in volume 3 of plats at page 88. Under auditor's file number 220017, records of Benton County, Washington, be vacated, and the road right of way so vacated is hereby surrendered in all right or title of the city of West Richland and the public in and to that portion of said road right of way so vacated shall and does hereby vest in the owners of the abutting property owners, all in the manner provided by law, described in Exhibit A, as shown in Exhibit B, containing 7,513 square feet, more or less, conditioned on the city retaining a utility easement over the entire boundary of the road to be vacated, described in Exhibit C, as shown in Exhibit D, containing 7,513 square feet, more or less, and further conditioned on the owners of Lot 11, Block 13, plat of Hemminger's Acres, dedicating road right of way to the city of West Richland via the recording of a statutory warranty deed described in Exhibit E and as shown in Exhibit F. I think I made it through.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Much appreciated. Now for the easy part, may I have a second?
I'll second.
I'll second. Oh,
I have a motion and a second from Councilman Bloom. With that, council, do you have any questions that were not previously addressed with this staff report provided? Councilman Bloom?
Yes. looking at Exhibit B, just so that we're clear, we are taking care of the abutting access easement for lots 28, 29, and 30. And then there's a 20-foot section on lots 31, 32, and 33, which appear to be part of that road right away, which is not in the 7,513 square feet. Is that correct?
That is correct. The applicant tried to contact him to join on to this and was not successful. So that will remain road right away.
Okay, so the easement we're maintaining is in that 20-foot section, which is going forward.
So everything you see on Exhibit B that you're vacating as road right away will now become utility easement.
Okay, even the 20 that's adjacent to the 28, 29.
That is correct.
Looking at records again, it appears that lot 34 and 35 already gobbled up part of the easement. Just out of curiosity, I don't know how that happened, but that's
Hemminger's Acres has got issues from the 1955s. So I'll have a long discussion off bar with you on that, but there's other issues with that.
okay. So basically, we're retaining 20-foot road right away for lots 31, 32, and 33. That's what it comes down to.
Yeah, they're not part of the vacation. They didn't want to join on.
Okay, all right. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no one, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, like sign.
Oops.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, council. Moving on to items 8C and 8D, a public hearing and a resolution for amendment to the 2022-2027 six-year transportation improvement program. Again, Public Works Director, Mr. Slade will present his staff report this evening.
Thank you, Mayor. So this is the six-year tip that was adopted last year. So we do it usually in June. So this is the 22 to 27. Next month, we'll start the process of the 23 to 28. But what we're looking at is adding a project to this year's STIP and amending it. Normally, we just wait and add it to next year's, but there's several calls for project that will be coming up this fall that we feel this project would be eligible for and compete well. So the SR 224 Red Mountain Transportation Improvement Project, the scope of work in that DOT project has, improving basically Van Giesen from the post office all the way out to Red Mountain Road as curb gutter sidewalk. And in that scope, it has a separated pathway that goes from Keene Road out to the county, out to Red Mountain AVA. And I'll give credit to Julie West, our CIP manager, and Andrew Woodruff, our city engineer. They're looking at this and saying, why doesn't that pathway can go to the east down Van Giesen and tie into 68 or 62nd, excuse me, and provide access to that regional trail system for that neighborhood. Currently, they're isolated from that. And so I had to agree with that. That's an excellent thing. And rather than add it into the other project, we want to do this as a separate project because there are pathway projects that can get funded separately and do it as a combined project. So what you have before you is adding a pathway project, basically that would take it from Keene Road all the way to 62nd instead of having a sidewalk on that road project. Just to note that the original staff report had a document that showed that project is just under, I think, $1 million. It's been amended. I think it went out yesterday or today, Stephanie, I don't remember, but there's a revised one that has a total funding at 1.36 million. And the change with that, just so you see the price, is we've got the intersection control report back from the state, and the 6 intersections they're looking at, they're recommending roundabouts. And so roundabouts are great, move traffic efficiently, but it makes it difficult for pedestrians to cross. And so what they went through and added was at those intersections, those rapid flashing beacon at these key intersections to allow pedestrians to be able to cross. So that's what the change in the price in your staff report. So to amend our STIP, you have to have a public hearing on this and take public comment. And then after you do that, it goes to Council of Governments. It'll go to their, assuming it's approved by council, goes to the tax May meeting and then gets submitted to DOT in June, which is would get on the state STIP for us to be eligible for upcoming federal and state grants. So that's all I had, Mayor. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Roscoe. Well, with that, I'll go ahead and open the public hearing at 6:26. If you'd like to provide comments, please raise your hand or *9 by the phone, and the clerk will unmute you. Again, stating your city of residence for the record. I see no hands raised or *9. Stephanie, do you?
I do not.
That'll close the public hearing at 6:27. Resolution 2422, amending the 2022-27 6-year transportation improvement program. May I have a motion, please?
I move to adopt Resolution 24- amending the city's 2022 through 2027 6-year transportation improvement program, adding SR 224 pathway project.
Second.
A motion and a second. Is there any questions you may have that are not previously addressed from the staff report that was provided? Councilmember Moran.
Yes, thank you. I am wondering for this, I was trying to follow along as you were talking, but since there are no streets on this map that we got, I'm wondering if there is any way that you could just show us on a map where you're talking about where this pathway would go. You said 62nd, I know, and I'm trying to figure out where.
In between Keene
talking
and
about.
62nd on the east side of Van Giesen. So 62nd is the road that runs north to Taptail Elementary. So at that intersection, heading west all the way out to where Keene Road intersects with Van Giesen.
There's a map.
Would it go Van Giesen to Rupert then?
It's past that. There's a map in your staff report, the city map that shows the limits.
It's page 121 of.
Oh, it's the dark line.
Yes.
That
yes.
makes, okay. I got label very easily to see on my computer. Okay, never mind. Thank you.
Councilmember Smart.
Yeah, Ms. Moran, I had the same problem. I looked at that, thought it was a big road, but yeah, that's the path. So you mentioned traffic circles, and I know that's not part of this motion, but just curious, do we have adequate easements for things like traffic circles, and would this path, if it were to go forward, obviously we'd want to put that may change the route. So I just want to confirm that this is not a fantasy pathway, but something that can actually be installed.
It can. It requires additional right of way.
It does.
Yeah, it does. And as far as the intersections, Van Giesen is still a state highway. They still have control, and you've got to go through the process. And they're set up to roundabouts first, unless you can show a justification why it should be a signal. Is kind of what they do. So it's not a done decision, but we're still very early into this. But we wanted to make sure we put it in there. If it turns out to be a signal, then we don't have to do flashing beacons at that intersection, but we fully loaded it. Worst case scenario.
Okay, and so does anything in this motion relegate us to this specific path route? Could it go to the other side of the street, for example, or where does it cross? Things like that, these little details, is that necessary to work out now?
It matches on the east side, which is the side of the pathway is going to be that goes out to Antinori Road to the west.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't see it snaking either side, but we haven't got into the design. There may be an obstruction or something that may have us cross and switch it to the other side. John, we just haven't got into that design.
Oh, okay. So I just want to make sure that this this motion, that we're not getting put into backed into a corner on
No,
design.
this
We
is-
still have full opportunity to design in the future.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's just step one to get it on the tip.
Make it eligible. Make it
Yep.
eligible.
Perfect. Councilman Boone?
Well, I think that's half the question. I just wanted to promote the other side of the street from the standpoint of the amount of development on that side of the street that wouldn't necessarily have to, be crossing them. Well, I don't know which is going to be the more traffic coming into Van Giesel from Rupert or Paradise.
Yeah, and we're early in the game here. This just get the seed planted and start watering it.
So the reason we, in our packet, the change in the amounts, was that because of the recognition of possible pedestrian lighting?
Yeah, at the crossings, those rapid flashing beacons at
Okay.
those intersections. Yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
Councilmember Moran?
Thank you. Yes, something that Councilmember Smart said made me wonder. When I'm reading this, it says here that in the now therefore section 1, to amend the tip, adding the pathway, a copy of which is attached here too, and by this reference incorporated herein. So I'm assuming that as long as that attachment says it's just on the east side, that as of this moment, or as of the moment that it's approved, would only be approving it to go on the east side. Is that correct?
No, the document just shows the funding. There's no reference to any side of the road. It just says it's on Van Giesen from 62nd to Keene. Where
So,
Isn't the picture the reference?
so the map is not the attachment. for-
no. This
Okay.
is it.
Or I just,
No, good question.
okay, so
good
that is the
question.
only herein or here to within, et cetera, language that it's talking, okay.
The
Do we have,
vicinity- The vicinity map was just so you can see where the project limits were.
excellent, and it is greatly appreciated.
Very good.
My other question related to the circles, I'm wondering, do we have plans then in the somewhat near future to try and get those easements so that we can use them when eventually we will have the circle, so that we don't have a similar instance where we didn't have the easements over at Bombing Range in Keene? Do we have plans for that starting soon so that we can get working on those?
That's part of the $26 million DOT project that's underway. That's all part of that. So
Getting the easements is part of it?
actually buying right away and going through the environmental, the whole 9 yards. Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
Perfect.
very good. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous again. Thank you, council. Moving on to Resolution 2522, which is 8E, is a resolution amending the city's salary schedule. And we have our human resource officer, human resource manager, Selena Smathers, here to present her staff report this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So additional staff will be necessary for the State Route 224 Red Mountain Transportation Improvement Project. This is due to the city's Public Works Department taking over the design, road right-of-way acquisition, environmental permitting, and construction administrative duties from the Washington State Department of Transportation. Staff anticipate needing about 3 engineers for this entire project. That being said, they will be very conservative in terms of hiring additional full-time employees, and they want to start with hiring just 1 engineering tech in this budget in 2022 and deferring the other 2 positions until needed. So the impact to the 2021-2022 budget is estimated to be $71,709. Now, of that amount, 75% will be reimbursed by the Department of Transportation, and the city will be paying for 25%, which should be accounting for vacation, sick time, holidays, and that will be coming from the general fund. Thank you, council.
Thank you. And sometimes the human resource officer needs to be an officer, not a manager. Okay, with that, is there anyone from the audience who'd like to speak to this agenda item this evening? If so, please raise your virtual hand or star 9 if you're by phone. I see no one. Stephanie, do you?
I do not see anyone, no.
Okay. Council, may I have a motion, please?
I move to pass resolution 2522, amending the 2022 salary schedule.
Second.
Motion and a second. Council, is there any other questions you may have that were not previously addressed in the Salinas staff report this evening? Councilmember Moran?
Thank you. I'm just looking at this, that we have a hard time making sure that we can have the right amount of staff in order to do what needs to be done. And from what I recall from the parks meeting, we are going to require a lot of personnel in order to maintain the parks at the level we would like to and that we should be doing for the city. So I'm curious, with having these and hiring more people, how is this going to affect our ability to hire the amount of people necessary for the parks? I understand that part of this is being covered by WAT, but I want to make sure I understand how this is going to affect hiring personnel for the parks.
Yeah, Stephanie or Selena explained where the funding source is coming from this. And as we work through our next budget cycle, we'll work through those particular challenges at that point in time.
Okay, so then the 75%, is that per person? Because it sounded like we were hire 3, is that correct at this level?
No, we were going to go, we could conceivably need up to 3, but we're being conservative at this point and only asking for 1 individual to see how things play out. If we need further assistance at a later date, we'll bring that back to council, but we're going into this in the conservative manner at this point.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Mayor Pro Tem Brink.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just looking over the staff report cites that this engineer will also lead the effort with consultant assistance. Has the required consultant assistance already been budgeted in to the planned expenditures for this project?
You might ask that of Mr. Slade. Roscoe?
So yeah, it's a later agenda item, but there's almost $25 million for this project. 2.5 million is just on design. And there's $1.5 million for right of way. So we'll probably end up with $1 million worth of consultants to assist us. With, like I said, we're going to start out with 1 engineering tech, see how things are going, and then see if we need additional. It's a huge project to take on, and at the same time, we're trying to be conservative and try to fit it in. The alternative, without I'm jumping ahead to the later agenda, was this project was not getting done by DOT, and the longer it sits, the more risk that $26 million goes to the west side of the state. They had there was just a couple projects on the DOT projects in the King County area that needed $500 million of additional money due to project overruns. So 26 million is dropping a bucket, but it was at risk. We want to be in a position to make sure this project's moving forward. So in the 23-25 state's transportation budget, that this money stays in West Richland, we get this project built. It's needed. It's a game changer for West Richland. So
Yeah.
you're going to see, we're going to rely a lot heavier on consultants because that's one-time thing rather than a whole bunch of staff. This project's 4-5 years from design through construction admin. We're going to try to get it out to construction in 24, but it won't be done until 25. But we're going to rely on consultants heavily and then try to fill in staff where we need it.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Slade. No, I appreciate the fact that this is a tremendously detailed and complex project, but it is a game changer for the city of West Richland. I'm in full support of it, but I also agree with the approach of using consultants wherever possible. so that we can take advantage of their one-time services without committing the city to making a long-term employment agreements, which may or may not work out when the project's done. Thank you for that explanation.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Brink. Councilmember Smart?
Yeah, Mr. Slade, you answered part of my question, which was about how long do we think this project will take and when it will be completed. The reason I wanted to find that out is to ask, there must be a staff replacement slash advancement sort of schedule in your department. And I was curious to know if we didn't have this project coming up, when would we be scheduled to need another engineering technician as the city grows naturally?
Yes.
Naturally, I'll say naturally, as if this is an unnatural growth.
Yeah, yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, we had that discussion 2 years ago when we reorganized the Public Works Department. And we had a list of projects on it. We've steadily went through that. I think there's one more engineer in January of 2023. Is that correct, Selena?
Yes.
The problem is that didn't anticipate redoing well 2, redoing well 3. This $26 million, and with the ranch going forward, we may have another well, another reservoir, and a $40 million expansion of a wastewater treatment plant. So we're going to go reevaluate. I got to work with HR and see. So what we talked about 2 years in the reorg, we're far exceeding that, and so we'll have to go back and reevaluate it. I think back then, I was going to say back then we were consistently about $2 million in consultant work a year. We're pushing well over 4 million now, even with this additional staff. So it's still growing. So we're going to do an analysis, and you'll see some of that with the budget before you in 2020, 25 or 23, 24 budget, excuse me, getting all messed up on the date.
Yeah, so that's good. So what you're telling me is that even if this project were to somehow fall through, we wouldn't be trying to let go of an engineering technician because we just don't have enough work for them to do.
No.
That's important, right? We don't want to hire people and then have to let them go. I don't think that's going to happen. So the other thing that I would suggest is that with the sort of a massive engineering consultant work task load that we have, I'm hopeful that I'm sure we're up to par, but I guess if I were in that position, I would want to make sure that my ability to define tasking for those consultants is really completely, at the highest level of effectiveness as possible, so that we're getting the best deal we can out of our consultants with all of these projects that we have coming up that we rely on consultants for, just so that we're getting the best bang for our buck possible. I know that's obvious and something that we do all the time, but with these projects, looking us in the face, it just seems like it's another point of management emphasis that we should really make sure is honed to perfection, so that as we hire consultants and as we hire engineers, that they are good at managing our consultant tasking list, right? And that we have that skill set in the city. So that's just a comment. It's not a question. It's not a critique. It's just something that came to mind that I think is important. So,
John, you're spot on. And I'll just add, our recent hire, CIP manager, Julie West, has experience with DOT, invaluable. This contract that's coming up on a later agenda item, she put that scope to work together for DOT to get that pushed through. She knows the ins and outs. She was the lead engineer with the Dupertail Bridge project and dealing with DOT. So well-schooled, she's been a great asset to take this on, and feel fully comfortable with her leading that effort with this project. So
yeah, that sounds great. I just want to make sure that if our main industry in our engineering department is to contract larger volumes of work to subcontractors, that we're good at it. right? And that we're doing a good job for our citizens. So I don't have a problem with that model at all. I think it's probably very efficient as long as it's as long as we keep on top of it, right? So yeah, I'm all for hiring this other technician. I would actually expect with the volume of project work coming down the pike that we'll see this kind of thing happen again.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Bloom?
Okay, I'll start asking the hard question. Why is the non-exempt position has the same pay scale as the exempt position? I mean, being non-exempt, that means that you're paying overtime. That's correct. So I'll ask that question, just throw it out there.
Sure, no problem. So when you look at staffing, once you get to the high level non-exempt positions, this just states it's an engineering tech because we have these wide ranges, but we're going to be looking for an engineering tech level 3. That's the highest level that you can go. They are paid the same, if not a little bit more, as an associate engineer. That happens to be the top of their scale, where an associate engineer is at the bottom of their career. They're just starting and, you know, they have ways to go. But that is where the break is. That's where all those salaries overlap at the top of the non-exempt and the bottom of the exempt.
Perfect. Thank you, Selena.
Yeah.
All right, very good. Anyone else? Seeing no one, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, like sign, please. Motion carries. Thank you, council. Moving on to item 8F is a motion to execute the Washington State Department of Transportation participating agreement for the SR 224 Red Mountain Transportation Improvement Project. Again, Mr. Slade.
Thank you, Mayor. So yeah, this is a little odd with this agreement, but we started this last October when it became evident that DOT had other priorities, had lost a number of key, I'd say, employees with the COVID vaccine mandate. They had a lot of people that left. For us, they lost 2 key staff members that were working on this project. And so there wasn't a lot of work going on. And so it became obvious that if this project was going to be successful, the city needed to take it on or risk losing it going away, which, yeah, it's like I said, it's a game changer. But a little bit of a challenge. These, you know, when you look at the attachment to the staff report, it's got a DOT participating agreement. Usually it's 180. Usually it's a DOT project, and this same agreement is for the cities to pay DOT. So this one was unique, took a little more horsepower on DOT side. It's not a one-off, but it's not a norm thing. Usually it's the other way around. But when you look at the agreement, Exhibit B, again, that was put together by our staff and ran through several departments at DOT. And we specifically did this to get down to the detail. Because when you look at the design, the DOT uses different design software. They have different standards for storm drainage. And so we wanted to make sure we were clear, if we take this over, this is what we're going to do. And storm water was one, we didn't want to use the state standard. One, it's pretty complicated. And 2, we're the ones that have to operate and maintain it. We're responsible for storm drainage on a state highway when it comes through the city limits. So we're going to maintain it. We wanted to build it to our standards. Same thing with our software. We're use Civil 3D. That's what our engineers are skilled at. We did not want to have to put it together as a DOT plan set. I think they can't think of the software that they use off the top of my head, but it's different. And so we made sure that that stuff was all in there and was clear. And a lot of the stuff was negotiated. Like I said, this started in October, and it was a lot of back and forth as far as who's doing what, who's conducting the work, what's the design standard. And it pretty well lays it out that there's not going to be any guesswork when you get in the middle of this design. So we'll be doing the work. Consultants will be involved with this, and DOT will be basically reviewing our work instead of the other way around and assisting. I actually preferred it this way. It gives us, I think, more control. We were already taking the lead on the public outreach with all the businesses, and when we're looking at their access you know, that section through 68 to Gross Cap, all those businesses and stuff, their parking access is right up on Keene Road. I think we'll give them a better customer service. I think we do a better job with our projects, reaching out and mitigating impacts and meeting with the neighbors on that. So I think we have a council member that's got some ties with the chamber that's gonna probably, I'll volunteer to help with that. So I don't know who that is, but we'll do that. But it's very detailed. I mean, it's 14 pages in this agreement. It outlines the dollar amounts. Like I said, this is just the DOT money. This doesn't include the $500,000 that the city has money into it, the money that the Benton County's got into this project. That is just DOT money. So that's made up of the Connecting Washington. That's that bond from 2015. There's also a little bit of federal money sprinkled into that. The state held back about $900,000 for their time. So they still have a part in this. They still reviewing stuff, material specs. They'll be doing part of the construction inspection. So it's laid out, it's pretty detailed. Once this is executed, it goes back to them. It's officially ours, and we can get the ball rolling with some solicitations for some consultants to help us with the environmental road right-of-way acquisition. And then there's some other stuff, but that'll be forthcoming to council once we get those contracts negotiated. So.
Okay.
Oh, one more thing. You'll see some language in there that talks about overruns. You know, this is a maximum amount that DOT has. And it talks about the city being responsible for securing additional or going. That's because WashDOT can't lobby for additional funds. So that language is specific. Doesn't make us responsible. It just means that when we go through design, if we determine we've got cost overruns or something else, they can't lobby. They can grow a request, you know, when they do their normal budget, but they can't lobby like we can, but the city could. So just to be clear on that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And is there anyone from the audience who would like to speak to this agenda item this evening? Seeing no one, we'll go ahead and let's see, we already got a motion, didn't we? Okay, let's try a motion. There we go. I got so long in the conversation with Roscoe, you know, between him and the chief, I guess we'll get the chief later. May I have a motion, please?
I've moved to authorize the mayor to execute WS Washington State Department of Transportation participating agreement for State Route 224 Red Mountain Transportation Improvement Project.
Second.
Motion and a second. Is there anyone from the audience who'd like to, we've already done that one. There's any more questions that have been previously addressed in the staff report prepared by Roscoe? Councilmember Moran.
Thank you. Yes, I was just looking over one more time, and I'm curious if you could just touch on the termination for public convenience section. Specifically, I'm wondering about the part where it says, for instance, number 1, the requisite funding becomes unavailable through failure of appropriation or otherwise. And also number 4, the secretary deems that such termination is in the best interest of the state. That seems, so first off, whose failure of appropriation or otherwise is that referring to? Ours or WashDOT's?
Neither. That would Bronson, you jump in if I misspeak, but I'll put my assistant city attorney hat on. But that is standard language they put in all their agreements. So if the state legislature for some reason pulls the funding for this project for whatever reason, then they'll pay us to that point, and then the project's put on hold. So that's something that would be out of WashDOT or the city's control if the state legislature decided that we're not going to honor the 2015 Connecting Washington. We're not going to fund it for whatever reason. So like I said, there's additional Connecting Washington funding that needs to be appropriated in the 23-25 transportation budget. So again, if that doesn't get appropriated, then we won't be moving into construction in 2024. So that's important. And then what was the other part of that section, Kate, that I?
The secretary determines that such termination is in the best interest of the state.
Yeah, I guess that's wide open. That's standard language. They have that right. But again, there's language in there for whatever work we've completed or wherever we're at, they'll pay us to that point and then the project's put on hold and we'll have to then figure that out. I can't remember a time when that's happened. Other than I know we had a ecology, I think it was a stormwater grant that was tied to some kind of funding coming to the state that wasn't meeting revenue projections. And so we got a notice that they reduced the grant amount because the revenue wasn't coming in. But it's rare, but again, it's standard language that the state's going to cover.
Gotcha. I get concerned, and I hate the word, the fact that we're living in ungood times. I hate that, but I just, looking at that make kind of wary. And also I am wondering, when you were talking about the standards, how we would be using ours versus WashDOT's, is there any chance that in the future WashDOT could come back and say, hey, we decided that it needs to meet our standards because our standards are higher than yours. I know we have this agreement, but the secretary decided so. Is there a chance that they could come back and say that we have to fix it, make it better?
I don't think so, Kate. I mean, they can come back if they
Okay.
want to put more money into it and do some higher thing. I don't think so. Mainly because a lot of these things, the city's responsible for the maintenance of it. So I don't see that playing out.
Gotcha. Okay.
And this is another reason we wanted to clearly spell it out in the agreement. So there's no miscommunication. It's black
Right.
and white, what everybody's agreeing to.
Makes sense.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Councilman Smart.
Yes, Mayor, Council, Roscoe, Councilmember Moran, you took the words right out of my mouth. That was exactly the first part of my question, was the termination question. I have an additional part though, which is the time frame for termination. So somebody from the state comes down and says, okay, we want to cancel this project. We don't want it anymore. Is there language that gives us a month or 2 weeks or something, or is it like immediate? And then how do we account for closure costs? I'm curious about that. If there's not a good answer, I don't know. What do you think, Roscoe? How does that work? Or it just never happens, you think?
Yeah, it doesn't. We have great communication with them. Like I said, the only thing I see happening is, I mean, the legislature's had a tough time this session balancing, and it was in the middle of a budget, and they put a transportation package in that still didn't meet all the state's preservation, and they've got, they had major cost overruns. The good thing is they have surplus of federal dollars that were coming. They got surplus in the general fund that they never transferred into transportation that they did. They raised taxes and across the board. So, the risk that we have with this project is the 23-25 state budget, when they do the transportation package, that the remaining connecting Washington is not funds, for whatever reason, is not included into that. And I attended, so I'm involved with several groups that deal with transportation, Good Roads, with Gail Brown. She's on the state representative, so I'm on those. The Highway Federation, and they have a lot of the state legislatures, the chairman, vice chair of these transportation committees. And I don't think I heard any one of them waver to the state's commitment to complete the projects that were funded in the 2015 Connecting Washington. And they showed that by backfilling a lot of these projects on the west side. I mean, one of them was over 500 million. So they all were consistent with their message that this is what the package was. They're going to complete it. And I think complete it before they start anything new. So even though there's some new transportation money that came out, if we were further along with our project and it was short of funding, my expectation was this last transportation package would have made it whole, John, just with the discussions that I heard.
So the second thing segues pretty well into what you just said, and that is, if we're planning this project, so we have a budget, the scope of the work, how well defined is that right now, and how much leeway do we have to build in contingency based on scope? So in other words, if we're going to be if the plan is to do 1,000 feet of road, should we really only be planning to do 800 feet? So we have a 20% contingency in case things go awry. how does that work? How do we do
Yeah,
contingent?
there's a detailed budget the DOT put together that outlined the scope of work and actually has a unit cost in there.
Okay.
So it's very detailed. I will tell you that the state has a hefty contingency on that. You know, $2.5 million to design this project. You know, even if I'm, well, and there's another $1.5 million in right of way. You know, I think the mayor was questioned, okay, well, how many engineers are $2.5 million? I said, I don't know, 20, 18, you know, so I think we've got a hefty dollar amount in there, and not to badmouth the state, but I think we're going to be a lot more efficient with the funds. But you know, it's got a detailed thing. So as we go into the design, it's all laid out. It's just, you know, what's happened to concrete prices, what's happening to, you know, the quantities there and the scopes there. It's just, no one's going to know what's going to happen with inflation, John. But as we go through it and we start the design, we figure out exactly what the right of way need is, we get appraisals and we see what the value of that land is. We'll have a better idea where we're at. The goal, and I wish we would have had this contract in place back in October, and I'm not behind the 8 ball, but the goal is this fall when we start going back up to Olympia and meeting with our legislators, that I have a pretty good idea whether we need additional funds or not. We're really late in the game, and I don't know if I'm going to get there, but we're going to do you know, whatever we can to get to that point.
Okay, well, that's part of my question / message here is that I would recommend that being that this is a large, complex project and one of the first of such projects we've taken on as a city or group of engineers, that we have a very high respect for the concept of contingency. And that brings me to landscaping, because landscaping is something that can be a nice buffer in more ways than one, both financially and visually and so forth. Are there landscaping plans for this project? And then it mentioned in the contract on page 1, or in the packet on page 141 of the PDF, that there's maintenance of landscaping is a topic. And so I'm wondering, again, that's I presume that is that maintenance done by the city or the state? This is a state road, but it's in city limits.
Yeah, any landscaping or things that you put on a state highway in the city limits, the city is responsible for the maintenance
City's
of it.
responsible. Okay.
Yeah. As far as landscaping, John, I didn't dig into the scope that great, but it's going to be like any other road project. We don't do massive landscaping on the sides. Typically it's crushed rock, low maintenance. I think that was put in because the state was leaning towards roundabouts. So we'll have to have some future discussion what goes in the middle of the roundabouts.
Right.
And it maybe we don't landscape it. Maybe it's just rock and we go. I know the mayor's talked about working with the Port of Kennewick on art. Maybe put some kind of art in the middle of this. I mean, all that stuff's open for bid. As we go forward, I'm not looking at a jungle, or even it'll be pretty minimal landscaping just because of ongoing maintenance costs.
I just want to also, you know, try to minimize the out year cost, right? So
Absolutely.
okay. All right. Well, those are reasonable questions, or reasonable answers to impossible questions as far as what the state might do as far as termination. I guess we don't have much of a choice there, but it does raise a little bit of a concern to start a project, hire an engineer or more, and then find the state cutting the project, or the president declaring war, and that was one of the clauses in there as well, that he could, you know,
and then we all got bigger problems, John.
Or an energy emergency, which, you know, with the current administration, I have to wonder if they, you know, turning on a light bulb could be an energy emergency. So just a little bit apprehensive about some of those things, but in general, I'll support this.
Yeah. Thanks, John. It is standard language on all the DOTs, and that comes from the AG's office at the state level. And, you know, to put it in perspective, I think I had a question from, I can't remember who asked, but, you know, the largest project the city had done up until the police station was our treatment plant expansion at just under $9 million. We just completed a $12.5 million police station. And now we're taking on this $26 million project, which really isn't 26 million because we've got $2 million of water and sewer infrastructure that we're already doing. So we're up for it. We're up for the challenge. We've got a good team here. Like I said, we'll get into it. We're going to get this thing back on schedule and we'll go from there.
Hey, did you have something else that wasn't previously addressed in the staff report?
Yes, I apologize. It was something that Councilmember Smart mentioned that made me think of it just now. Just a quick question that's very related and also related to other things. I'm curious, with the, from what I understand, there's a bit of an agreement that we have with regarding maintenance when it comes to snow and ice removal. Is that correct?
The agreement, AWC negotiated an agreement with the DOT for all cities. And so there's already standards out there for everything that deals with a state highway, who does what. And it's tied into population and it's been a moving target. Before, the target was increasing faster than our population. So it wasn't too worrisome. I think the last number I saw was 22.5. And it may have changed, but once population goes over that mark, then we're responsible for snow plowing on the state highway in the city limits. And like I say, our guys probably do it already now. They're out there before the state comes through on their routes. So.
Gotcha. I'm just curious with this and with how much the city is going to be putting this, I was wondering if that would change any of the agreements moving forward to these sections of this highway.
No, it's statewide. It's a standard agreement that's statewide for all municipalities.
All right, perfect.
Okay.
Thank you, council. Good discussion. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you, council. Item 8G is an ordinance to amend the 2021-2022 budget to include the new engineering position from the previous resolution, amending the salary schedule. And our finance director, Aaron Gwynn, will present her staff report this evening. Aaron?
Thank you, Mayor Gary. Good evening, council. I'm presenting the 11th budget amendment of the 21-22 biennial budget. This amendment is conjunction with the previous two agenda items, 8E and F, for the State Route 224 Red Mountain Interchange Project. This amendment appropriates an additional $17,928 from the general fund ending fund balance for engineering services, salaries, and benefits. This is an estimated 25% of the salary for an engineering tech for which wages are earned but not specifically spent working on the project, such as sick leave, holiday hours, vacation, and such. In Fund 301, this amendment recognizes the $24,634,760 in revenue from the Washington State Department of Transportation as part of the Connecting Washington for the State Route 224 Red Mountain Interchange Project. In Fund 301, it also appropriates the same dollar amount for project expenditures. Staff recommends passing the attached ordinance to amend the 21-22 biennial budget. This amendment recognizes an increase in revenue in the amount of $24,635,760 and authorizes an increase in appropriations in the amount of $24,653,688, bringing the revised total expenditures to $107,251,561 and a total revised 21-22 biennial budget to $131,689,855.
Hey, thank you, Aaron. Appreciate it. Is there anyone from the audience who'd like to speak to this agenda item this evening? If so, please raise your virtual hand or *9. Be recognized. I see no one. Stephanie, do you?
I do not see anyone.
Okay, perfect. Council, may I have a motion, please?
I move to pass ordinance 0722, amending the city of West Richland 2021-2022 22 biennial budget.
Second.
Motion and a second. Council, is there any questions you may have that have not been addressed in our staff report this evening? Councilman Bloom?
Okay, so I'm confused. So we are not necessarily going to get the $24 million this year, is that, or this biennium, correct?
That is correct.
So I guess I'm trying to figure out why it's in the budget.
We put it in the budget as a project as a whole. And then as we go through, we'll reduce it by what was actually spent. So when we go and create the future year's budgets, we'll be able to take the total dollar amount. We did something similar with the police facility when we built it. Some of these bigger projects, we've done that in the past.
Okay, and I guess my other point is, why are we putting it in the REIT 1 project? I mean, we're
It's a 300, it's still a capital project fund, and we have a portion that the city was already spending on the project of the city's money from REIT. And so we're keeping the whole project together.
So the $493,357 that you had at the end of March, that's pretty much being committed to this project. I mean, it's going to wash as that. That's how much that's been read.
No, so what you have in the budget amount, the 24 million, that's DOT's money solely.
No, but we're putting it into the REIT line item. So all of a sudden the amount that's the city's part of that's going to go away, disappear, I think.
It gets added to it.
It's added to it. And the good news with that, Councilmember Bloom, is we'll spend DOT's money first before we spend the city's money.
Well, I recognize that, but REIT is also collecting real estate taxes. So I'm just trying to figure out whether with this approach, we're going to be able to really tell where we are in this project. That's a part of my concern, because we're not running it as a separate line item project.
We're not running it, you mean in a separate fund? Because
Right.
it is a separate line item. It's very distinct. That the last 3 digits, you'll see 704 on the end. Everything tied to this project is 704. So when we're doing project accounting, we detail it out. We have several of these that we do. You'll see several, I don't know, Fund 441, for example, I think has 5 or 6 projects going in it, and we don't necessarily pull a separate fund for it. So it's just one way of doing it. I don't see an issue. It does help in the regards as in terms of cash flowing it, because we do have funds there, and I'm not going to be doing an interfund loan. That was one area.
So it'll save future budget amendments, but
Yes.
we will work on your part. I guess now I'm going to shift gears totally back to the general fund amount. We're doing a modification of the general fund for, is this just planned expenditures that wouldn't, so the general fund amount will show, we're adjusting the budget of what the final remaining amount for the general fund budget is going to be, meaning whatever we had planned in the budget, it's going to be.
So I'm just we're upping the general fund appropriations by almost $18,000. And that's an estimation of what that engineering tech is going to cost, as far as all those, I don't know, not really work time, like sick leave, vacation.
Yeah, I can only do billable hours to the project.
Mhm.
And so we've looked at an estimate of how much sick time, vacation time that person will be used. That's not eligible to get reimbursed through DOT. So we needed to get that, need to be covered by the general fund. So it may be less with a new employee. Typically, they don't have a lot of vacation accrued. You know, but it's a conservative estimate when we looked at the staff for that.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Moran.
Along a similar vein, I was just looking at that and it was saying that it is appropriating almost 18,000, which makes about 1,400, well, makes exactly 14 a month when I'm using the numbers. And that would be, hang on. I just did the math and then the thing went away. I was looking at it and the amount per month was slightly lower, it looked like, than what 25% of, sorry, higher than what 25% of the median amount was. So the median full amount was the 5,750. And if I take the 14 hour a month and I figure from that, if that's 25% of just the salary, because that's the only thing we can be reimbursed for, that's going to be 5,976. So are we saying that, estimating that their salary is going to, just the salary is going to be at most 5,976 a month?
I don't remember what it was. I know that we're not doing a salary for a full year. Selena's staff-
6,600 was what we budgeted.
Okay, there you
66,
go.
yeah,
Yep.
6,600.
a month, yes.
Okay.
That good?
Okay,
All right.
because the numbers, what I'm seeing there with the 17,928 is factoring to a salary of 5,976.
But that, I don't know what your math is, but that's what I came to when I ran Selena's numbers. I think I took 6 months of salary and benefits. So that includes benefits, which is what the city pays for in medical, taxes and whatnot. And then, yeah, 25% of that number, which I think the total estimated was 72,000 for the year.
Yep.
For what it will cost the city to hire somebody. That's
Okay,
not
I just want to make
salary.
sure, I just wanted to make sure that we were putting in the budget what would fit, rather than if we were going to be hiring somebody that we wouldn't be limited past what the salary range already is based off of what we're allowing in the budget. That's all I just want to make sure.
Yeah, it includes the benefits is the main thing, and which is probably a more convoluted part for the calculation. Because it's
Right.
dependent on what they bring in as far as what kind of medical insurance they go with and such.
Right. Yeah, I was purely just looking as if it were salary.
Councilman Smart?
Okay.
Yeah, quick question, Roscoe, is this a degree position? I should have asked this before, but just out of curiosity.
It typically an engineering tech maybe have a 2-year drafting degree.
Okay.
Mostly be heavy on experience,
Yeah, all right.
work experience, where associate engineers got the engineering degree and less experience.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carried unanimously with a thumbs up from Councilman Bloom. Okay. We're gonna roll into unfinished business, which we have none this evening. Nor do we have any new business, so this is the time for citizen public comment. If you'd like to address council this evening, please raise your virtual hand or press *9 by way of phone. And Stephanie will unmute you, recognize, and give your name and city of residence for the record. Stephanie, I see a Mr. Norris.
Hello.
Go ahead, sir.
Yes, my name is Robert Norris, live in West Richland. And first off, I'd like to congratulate Officer Chief Majetic on his upcoming retirement. That's good news. Glad to see him moving on to better things. Enjoyed while you were here. Helpful every time I've had to speak with you. Also like to thank you for the event center hosting the races again. That's a big improvement to the community, and glad to see it happening. Glad to see the improvements over last year, and it looks like everybody's working towards more for the future years. It's good news. I had a question about vacating easements and any ones particular to my particular situation. I live along a road called Tennessee Walker Avenue. It's in West Richland, off of North Lake Drive. Having an issue trying to identify where that easement actually is, where the road is supposed to be. Wondering if anybody at the city council has any information that I have not been able to get so far.
And Mr. Norris, that would be something to be at the staff level, and the staff members, as they move through their comment session, can either share with you the knowledge they may have or offer a sit down with you to go through that particular process. But that is that's an administrative item that is dealt with staff.
Very good. So who would I speak with in particular, do you know, or?
Will that individual identify themselves as they go through the conversation this evening? Most likely would be Eric Mendenhall, our Community Development Director.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I've spoken with Eric once or twice. He's come to my house and told me to move stuff out of the road, but has yet to define exactly how far or where I'm supposed to move stuff. So I'm kind of at a loss. I've got some documents that show where the road's supposed to be, but we seem to not be able to come to an agreement on that for some reason. I'm not sure why.
We'll have Eric work with you in regards to that concern and get that taken care of. I know there's been conversation had, and it's not an easy situation. Sometimes these things take time to deal with. So, Mr. Norris, you'll be reaching out to Eric Mendenhall, or Eric can reach back out to you. So.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And anyone else this evening? I see no one. Okay. We'll go ahead and move on to staff reports. If anybody has anything to report this evening, if you go ahead and raise your hand, I'll find you. Eric.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My comments mostly are just to respond to Mr. Norris. Be happy to talk with you. You can reach me direct tomorrow morning at my desk at 509-967-7113. We can set up a time to meet and discuss what those easements look like. I've got all the information for you, and I can share that with you. I know there are 33-foot easements on both sides of the property line that run through there for access and utilities that were part of the, I'm trying to remember, section 8 plat. So we can look at those, Robert, and go through that, and I can show you the documentation for all of that. Just give me a call tomorrow morning. We can set up a time.
Okay, thank you, Eric. Appreciate that. Anything else, Eric? Okay. Any other staff members this evening? Seeing none, moving on to council. Council's comments. Okay. I don't see anybody this evening. Yes, I do. Councilmember Moran.
Thank you. Didn't think you'd get away that easy, did you?
Gotta be a little quicker on the draw there. I'm rolling. We got a long day today.
I understand. So first, I would like to thank Eric for reaching back out to me. I received an email in my personal email, and I don't want to be like a local school board. So I want to make sure that it's above the board and it's sent to my professional city council email. So I forwarded it to my professional email and also forwarded it to Stephanie and you, Mr. Mayor, and also Eric. And I would like to thank Eric for reaching out so quickly about that. Our staff is always really good about that. So thank you very much. And please, if you are sending emails about city-related business or any messages, please make sure that we can make everything a good we can keep and send it to our city emails. Our email addresses for the city are on the website. I don't want to get into any kind of sticky stuff like what's going on with a particular school board. Second, I am wondering, there was a bit ago where we had the resolution where we were going to table discussion until we're talking about budget regarding the change in the form of government. And I'm wondering if that time is soon, seeing as we have our retreat coming up next month. From what I understand, the budget is going to be something that we will share, and I'm hoping that we can get paperwork put together. If I recall from a time where the Herald was discussing, there was mention that the staff had already done a report or a study of some kind on the change of government and the costs. So I'm hoping that that information will be available to us and to the public so that we can kind of look over that as well. And finally, I'm wondering, I understand that the retreat is on a Tuesday. The last retreat we had was on a Friday, and it sounded like that was something that worked for people's schedules. Is that something where people were asked about their schedule? Because I don't get asked from my schedule, or is that staff schedules that we're talking about?
We're working with the consulting firm and we work around this consultant's schedule, and we've given a 30-day notice for that particular meeting. And if you're not able to attend in a 30-day notice period, that's unfortunate, but hopefully the next meeting you'll have the opportunity to participate if you can't make this one.
Oh, no, I'm able to attend. It means that I have to shift a lot of things around. That's
the reason
to me
for a
that we would
30-day
have a retreat.
That's the reason for
Right.
the 30-day notice. Want to make sure we give people adequate time to make any arrangements if necessary, or if they can. If they can't, it's understandable.
Right, absolutely. And I understand that. It's just a concern that having a retreat for, well, not everybody is retired on the council. So hopefully we're making sure that we're doing it those that are not retired or that have different working hours would be able to attend. And we can maybe look towards the future doing what a lot of other councils do, where they have their retreat at the very least on a Friday, if not on a weekend. So I would greatly appreciate that. And finally, I know only before, but one more thing. I just was wondering if we could, for the packets, when they get changed into a PDF, if we could make sure that those are searchable, because it is much easier if these are searchable to search for particular keywords when we're going through. That would be extremely helpful. Thank you very much.
Councilman Bloom?
Well, we're maskless on Ben Franklin Transit. They did announce that. And so while it's still quote, encouraged, it's not enforced. I'm not quite sure how the financial aspects will go. We will be entertaining looking at candidates for the replacement general manager this coming couple of weeks. Hopefully we will have a new general manager in the queue come June, my shot. The alpacas behind me, if anybody wants to come wrestle them on Sunday morning at 8 o'clock, alpaca wrestling opens up. Just come by my house and you can try and trip an alpaca, get them to the ground and watch them get sheared. So anyone's, let me know if you are interested in coming by and watching them get defleeced. At least it looks like the weather's going to be more amenable than if it happened last week. It would have been shivering out there.
So, thank you, Councilman. Councilmember Stoker?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I just wanted to report that I will be on travel for the first 2 weeks of May, so I will miss the next council meeting. I expect on that day I'm going to be at Universal Studios, I believe. My daughter is graduating from the University of Central Florida that Friday, so we're going to be in Florida that day. The following week, we'll be coming back, but I'll be driving from Kentucky to Illinois, I think, on the 10th. So I won't be in town for those, and not likely to be in a position where I can participate even remotely. So with that, I did get an email today. I think they were trying to copy me with, or maybe it was yesterday, with the rest of the council, but just as a heads up, the website does not have a link to my email. While I love it, Mr. Buell's picture is still there in my place, so I don't mind having his face in front of me, but if people want to contact me, it's not going to come to me. So just thought I would bring that up to your attention. And thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, seeing no one, I'll go back to Chief's announcement. He made last council meeting that he's going to retire, and we congratulate him for that. There's a lot of years and deserving. Over the last number of years in all of the departments in the city, I've worked with the succession planning and the same thing that the chief and I have done with the police department over the last couple of years. So if everybody would please save the March 23rd date for a special meeting that will be held in the Noski room at the police station. The swearing in of the city of West Richland's new police chief will be Captain Thomas Grego. Will be our next police chief for the city of West Richland. And thank you, Chief, for mentoring him as the plan moved forward. It was very successful. Captain Grego also completed some college courses that I'd ask him to step up and complete. He's still on the list for the FBI Academy. If we could ever get an opening, it would be certainly an asset to have him go through that process as well. But Chief Majetic, I want to thank you very much for your mentorship, for Captain Grego, as well as all of the team in the city of West Richland's Police Department. So save the date, March 23rd, special meeting in the Noski room.
You meant May 23rd, right?
Excuse me, May 23rd, excuse me. I was going off my note that was a little bit on the scribble side.
What time was that again?
And we'll be sending that out to you. Stephanie, do you have anything or
It's at 5:30.
5:30?
Thank you.
Okay, so yes, May 23rd, my bad. All righty, sounds good. With that, we're going to go ahead and adjourn into executive session per RCW 4230-110C to consider minimum price for real estate. We'll talk about 20 minutes into this executive session with no action to follow this evening. So we'll let Stephanie, go ahead and drop the audience.